It's time to go to one place that hasn't been corrupted. Space! Hello, my name's GamerZach and welcome to my list of 20 upcoming PC space games in 2020 and 2021. It's important to note that these aren't games that just have a space setting, as a strategy game set in space would be in the strategy list. This is more about the experience of living in that final frontier. Now, this tends to be a genre of rough-looking indie gems to never-before-seen massive endeavors, and we should have something for everyone today. There's also a whole bunch of bonus games after the main list, so watch all the way through. If you appreciate what you see here, please do like, subscribe, and share the video with other space enthusiasts, as it really does keep this channel flying and these videos being made. Alright, now let's get started. First up, we've got SpaceBourne by Burak Dabak. This is an open space exploration game with RPG elements in a world that consists of warring factions. You choose a side and get ready for combat, and we can expect the genre staples of mining, trading, bounty hunting, pirating, salvaging, and customization of ships. As you go through the story, your character can develop their active and passive traits, and besides the main story, space is procedurally generated. It looks pretty decent, although a little unrefined at first glance, and being in early access on Steam since late 2018, it's gotten few but mostly positive reviews. It had the ambitious goal of fully releasing by early 2019, but obviously it missed that. So if we're lucky, the delay is going to make a much more solid spacefaring experience for SpaceBourne. Then we have Underspace by Pastaspace Interactive. Battle storms, chase monsters, trade, mine, and explore the galaxy in a handcrafted open world. You'll be able to customize your ship and shoot your way to world-eating serpents, ancient star cities, possessed battleships, and various other adventures, puzzles, and dangers. This is a smaller project, raising just over $12,000 on Kickstarter, with plans of single-player and multiplayer game modes, both with their own unique campaigns and content. Plus, modding tools are going to be released too. It all sounds pretty exciting, but whether they can pull it off with that budget remains to be seen. Now, the original release window is set for the very end of 2019, but this video was made a little before that and there's already some talk of it being delayed, so I wouldn't be surprised if it got pushed into 2020. But either way, we can hope the timing is managed well enough for Underspace to actually be finished when it's released, since there's no plan for early access. And then for probably one of the prettiest games on this list, it's Everspace 2 by ROCKFISH Games. The original game was a beautiful-looking single-player roguelike action space shooter that was difficult but very satisfying to play. The sequel seems to be shifting towards an open-world RPG, with a story and universe to explore and plenty of thrills, loot, secrets, and perils along your way to amass wealth and progress through the narrative. From the trailer we can see scenes flying down on planets too, so it's not totally in the void of space, which is cool. This looks even more gorgeous than the first game, and if it can just be the same but a little bit better in every way, it should satisfy fans of space shooters and those looking for a bit more of an RPG experience. Though hopefully it's not too samey with the last one either. Blasting its way towards a 2021 release, it'll be a bit longer before we see Everspace 2 in action. And then for a game that we've been looking at for a couple years now, it's Infinity Battlescape by I-Novae Studios. Multiplayer space combat with up to hundreds of players on a single server. Join a corporate faction and battle it out in a true-to-scale procedural solar system, including planets you can fly down to. There's no single-player content besides Sandbox, so if you're looking for an epic campaign or storyline to follow, you won't really find that here. But if you're into space combat and dogfighting, then this should be right up your alley. It looks pretty good, and combat plus graphics are continuing to be updated, so this should end up delivering on its promises. Having launched into early access in 2019 to very positive receptions on Steam, it's looking like Infinity Battlescape is off to a good start with a target for full release in 2020. What used to be called Starfighter Inc., it's now called In the Black by Impeller Studios. Nuclear-powered space combat inspired by X-Wing and TIE Fighter, this one calls itself a hardcore PvP team-based multiplayer space shooter. Realism is a focus here, so if they do it right, you can expect accurate simulations on how space combat should actually function. So no fantasy-based propulsion, colorful lasers, inaccurate gravity, or magical shields. That could be what some people appreciate, but it's also a risk in terms of keeping the game engaging and not making it frustrating to play. The sophisticated interface, plausible world building, and player progression are supposed to make sure things still play smoothly and keep things interesting. Meanwhile, game modes include Arena, Career, Simulator for Challenges, and Co-op, all while trying to keep things skill-based. For monetization, it says free to play, but not pay to win, so we can hope things are managed properly here as In the Black goes into beta in late 2019 for a later on release. And then for a space game that likes to mix some genres, it's Interstellar Prime by Dreamcatcher Studio. Trying to merge RPG, RTS, and space simulation elements together, this is a game set 150 years in the future where you'll command a starship, navigate and travel through the solar system, jump into smaller craft for space dogfights, and also walk around, build a base on Mars, and have real-time strategy like Top-Down Warfare 2. That sounds like a lot of things put together, and this doesn't have a huge budget either, so it's a concern whether all the elements can be good or whether it's just too much on one plate. After raising just a hair over its Kickstarter goal of $30,000, it's kicking off with an early access release on Steam at the end of 2019, and we can expect up to 2 years of development before Interstellar Prime gets a full release. Next up, we've got Between the Stars by Isolated Games. Captain an interstellar cruiser and cross the galaxy to save the Republic. Develop your captain along your adventures as you make important decisions, upgrade and customize your ships, manage your crew, and engage in intense space combat. The sectors you traverse are procedurally generated, so no two playthroughs will be the same, and overall gameplay looks solid. Events and questing can be heavy on the text though, so if you're not into that, it might be a bit much. Plus, there's still some bugs right now. After entering early access early 2019, it's been fixing things up with mostly positive reviews on Steam, with release roughly scheduled for maybe after over a year, so 2020 is when Between the Stars should be bridging all the gaps. And then we have some 2D space games, starting with Ostranauts by Blue Bottle Games. Said to be a noir space lifestyle sim set in the Neo Scavenger universe, this one is all about living on a spaceship in a chaotic universe. Create your captain, build and customize your ship, and keep the resources coming to stay alive as lots of things are trying to kill you. Sometimes environment, sometimes debt collectors. The physical and emotional needs of your crew might also pose a problem amongst all this. The aesthetic of the game seems pretty well thought out, and the gameplay looks to have depth to it, plus modding support is planned too. So the game could have a ton of content if the community actually enjoys it enough to stick around. Looking at an early access release at the end of 2019, we can hope it gets a good enough start and build on top of that through 2020, otherwise Ostranauts risks floating away into the darkness. And then we have a game that's a little hard to Google. It's Delta V Rings of Saturn by Kodera Software. Resources were discovered in the Rings of Saturn, causing a space-age gold rush in this hard sci-fi top-down mining and excavation space simulator. Science and physics are important to this one, trying to be realistic with how your ship and the things around it will behave, and you'll also be upgrading your ship, hiring crew, and turning a profit. If you're unsure, there's a free demo, so go ahead and check it out yourself. This one entered early access on Steam towards the end of 2019 with an ambitious goal of full release within the same year, but my intuition says it won't be fully released until 2020. If we're lucky, I'm wrong and it'll actually release soon after this video, but better to be late and good for Delta V. Next we have Cosmoteer by Walternate Realities. Design and build small fighters to giant battleships based on individual modules, weapons, shields, engines, and passages for your crew to efficiently move between stations. The physics and combat simulations are pretty epic even in 2D, since all the parts of a ship are destructible, even breaking apart into multiple pieces in your quest as a bounty hunter, exploring the galaxy and making riches. Multiplayer is also available, allowing you to pit your ship against your friends with up to 8 players. Mod support is also a consideration. It's free to play now as a demo, since it's going through an alpha of sorts, getting about 1 or 2 updates a month. but it'll eventually come to Steam Early Access. There's no fixed release window yet though, so it could be some time longer before we see Cosmoteer reach its destination. For one more 2D game, it's Nimbatus by Stray Fawn Studio. The Space Drone Constructor, an interesting, almost puzzle game of trying to mine through things while facing unique challenges. The design of your drone will need to adapt along with your playstyle to counter each obstacle you come across, as there won't be a one-size-fits-all solution. A full story mode campaign is planned for the full release, but there's also a demo you can play on the official site if you're looking for a taste. After an early access release towards the end of 2018, it's been a while and development has been continuing with regular updates and improvements, earning it mostly positive reviews on Steam. It's supposed to be an early access for, quote, a year or longer, so it would be reasonable to expect a 2020 completion date for Nimbatus, though nothing's confirmed. Returning to the third dimension, we now have Avorion by Boxelware. A procedural sandbox where you build your own ship out of scalable blocks, fight epic space battles, explore, mine, trade, and build your own empire with fleets of ships in an attempt to save the galaxy from a mysterious threat. There's also a dynamic trade system including smuggling, along with mod support and co-op multiplayer. Now, this has been on Steam Early Access since 2017 with very positive reviews, so people are liking it. But working its way to being feature complete has been a bit of a struggle despite the frequent updates. Hopefully this is the last time I'll be listing Avorion, because release was scheduled for 2019, but they changed it and it's now set for 2020. Next we've got Skywanderers by Francois Duret. Building of spaceships and wandering amongst the procedural stars. Build anything from small starfighters to massive capital ships. Inspirations for this game is a bit of Elite mixed with Minecraft, so the blocky style might appeal to you or put you off. Besides the building, there's mining, trading, and factions where you'll be able to be a pirate, warlord, or bounty hunter with your NPC crew or friends in multiplayer. However, there was a massive delay in production of the game, basically pushing its early access launch on Steam to an unknown timeframe. Constant updates on its development give a bit of confidence that Skywanderers might be able to get back on track and reach a more playable state soon. And now for a few games that focus on base construction, starting with Starbase by Frozenbyte, a hybrid voxel vertex-based building game where you design and construct starships and space stations while exploring an infinitely expanding universe. You can expect the usual resource collection, crafting, trading, and combat, but the fully destructible environment is something that looks pretty impressive at first glance and sets it apart. It's also kind of an MMO, so you're not going to be alone on this one. It's all a very lofty and grand goal for a game, which can be very exciting when looking forward to it, but I'd still be cautiously optimistic with this one. Early access is meant to start in 2019 with a further 1 to 2 years development time, but we're all too familiar with delays, especially on ambitious projects. Once it's in early access, we'll know for sure the state of Starbase and see if it's something we want to get building in immediately or if it needs a little room to grow first. And then we have Stationeers by RocketWerkz. Said to be designed for hardcore players that want a game that's system-oriented and lots of complexity, you can expect detailed construction, atmospheric systems, dynamic physics, dangerous environments, deformable voxel terrain, livestock and farming, factory production chains, and programmable circuitry, which you can all do by yourself or in multiplayer. That's a lot of stuff, really. It's been in early access since the end of 2017, and people are still enjoying it with very positive reviews on Steam. However, this is going to be the last time I list this game, even if it's still in early access next year, because they're already releasing DLC for it. An unfinished game, and they're selling DLC. So I'm gonna have to start treating it as released. There's no telling when Stationeers will get an official completion date, but you can get a good look at it right now anyway if you like what you see. Next up we've got Hellion by Zero Gravity. After a century in cryosleep, you find yourself stranded in humanity's first interstellar colony. Survive by scavenging derelict ships for resources, explore the galaxy, and pillage what you need from other survivors in this first-person multiplayer space game. Having been in early access since 2017, it's been a few years now and development is noticeably slow, causing mixed reviews. But a few things have been completed now, for example points on the realistic physics system, salvaging and resource gathering, but some key features are still not implemented. What's completed or not is listed on the Steam page, so you can have a look there. This could eventually become a finished product, but I tend to not hold my breath when it comes to developments like Hellion. Back into some space adventuring, we've got Starpoint Gemini 3 by Little Green Men Games. Stepping into the shoes of a laid-back captain, explore an open world of unique characters, trading, mining, crafting, questing, and dogfighting. All while customizing your ship, making money, and getting famous. It's got RPG elements like skills, factions, and separate quest lines to go down, but right now the game has had a bit of a rocky start. It entered early access in 2019 to middling reviews on Steam, mainly to do with poor writing, acting, and generally the uninspired story, which is a little disappointing, but it does say that it's far from finished. Of course, there is a roadmap, so you can have a closer inspection on what the upcoming features are meant to be and if there are things that would entice you. Planning at minimum a year in early access, we could see Starpoint Gemini complete by 2020, but I would expect it to go into 2021 because it might need a bit more time to be properly done. Alright, I know this next entry is gonna cause some mixed feelings, but it's Squadron 42 by Cloud Imperium Games. Now, I know just a mention of this is going to upset a lot of people. I read your comments every year hating on this game and anything to do with it. On the other hand, people think I hate RSI because of me trying to be neutral. So let me be clear about it in a purely informational way. It's a space adventure where you go on missions and do spacey things, like you would expect to do in a spacey game. It's reportedly still on track for a 2020 alpha and beta according to the developers, which means a 2021 release is feasible. This is not Star Citizen, as a reminder, which is probably even further down the road, but is currently playable in alpha. Will Squadron 42 actually become publicly playable in 2020? Maybe, but we'll find out together, and then we can call it what it actually is. Or if it gets delayed again, I won't list it again until it's actually playable for reals. It might be great, it might not. Either way, you're probably going to leave a hate comment down below just because this entry is here, so while you're at it, let me know what you think I should do to reduce the number of comments complaining. If I don't mention it, the other half will complain, so that's not a solution either. Quickly moving on, it's Dual Universe by Novaquark, the civilization building MMO in a universe sandbox where you can explore, build, trade, and conquer. The big selling point of this life in space is that everything is running on a single shard, meaning every player that joins will be on the same server and everyone can meet each other and build together. Customization in building is also meant to be super flexible using voxels, allowing you to construct anything from single-seater jets to giant space stations. And the intention is that pretty much anything human is going to be built by the players, including things like politics, warfare, and maybe even entire cities. There's a lot of pressure on the players to make this game work, and that's always a huge risk. Though they have been showing off player creations recently, and it does look pretty impressive. And they have been making some developments over the last couple years, so it could turn out to be something amazing. Personally, I would expect that there would be a long way to go before this game is actually completed, as it kinda looks like the next massive technological endeavor for space games, but they're planning for beta and a completed release date in 2020, though I wouldn't be surprised if there were delays into 2021. And for the final main entry, not including bonus games, it's Beyond Good and Evil 2 by Ubisoft Montpellier. The sequel to the 2003 game. It's been a long time coming. There's a lot to unpack here, but generally this game has a huge open world that includes locations on planets, stations, and just in space, where you'll be able to customize your equipment, gear, and ships throughout your journey and story. Gameplay looks pretty diverse, anything from exploring locales to getting into shootouts to space dogfights. You can play the game solo and just recruit people from in-game, but there's also multiplayer if you choose, where you can have others join you on your space adventures and missions. I know many have been looking forward to it for a while now, and the hype is huge. I can only caution that things can always go wrong, and there's no fixed release window at the time of making this video, but it's reasonable to expect Beyond Good and Evil 2 by 2021. Alright, now for the bonus mentions, but if you've made it this far, you probably enjoyed your time here, and it would be greatly appreciated if you could like, subscribe, share this video, and ring that bell, as it really does help keep this channel running. Also, if you really like me, you can support more directly by using the Humble Bundle referral link, perusing my gaming merch store where I design my own products, or checking out the Patreon. All linked below, along with the Discord community, Twitch live streams, and social media accounts where I create even more content, like drawings, photos, and written articles. But now here are 15 bonus games in case you think something was missing from the list. Starting with a reminder that a space setting alone doesn't mean a game will be listed here, so for example Kerbal Space Program 2 is in the simulation list, and Homeworld 3 you'll find in the strategy list. And then we have 3 games which I listed last year and they still say they're meant to release in 2019, so I'm gonna take their word for it. It's Astrox Imperium, Executive Assault 2, and Redout Space Assault. And then for some longer developments, we've got Interstellar Rift, that's been in early access since 2015, StarMade, early access since 2014, Star Sector, it's been in development for many years, Wayward Terran Frontier Zero Falls, early access since 2016, Pulsar Lost Colony, early access 2015, Empyrean Galactic Survival, early access 2015 and still in alpha, Osiris New Dawn, it's been in early access since 2016 and slow development has led to mostly negative reviews, Angels Fall First, it's been a standalone development since 2009, and then one on the horizon, Star's End. It's in early access now with a goal for a 2022 release. And do you really need me to mention Star Citizen? It was kickstarted in 2012 and now playable in alpha. And that's it, 20 plus upcoming space games that should be releasing through 2020 and some into 2021, depending on their development. Which ones are you most excited about? Also, here's something I'd like to know. What do you think is the greatest space game of all time? Many of these are inspired by old classics or still running legends, but if you had to choose one, which would it be and why? I'd love to know so I can look for more games like those in the future for you. Now, if you'd like to see more upcoming games, check out the other lists on the channel sorted by genre shown at the top of the video for many more upcoming PC games, or my Gamer Encounter series where I take a much more extensive gameplay look at specific games. Alright, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video.